You talked about ACEs and exposure to trauma, and I think that one of the most challenging spaces that we walk into when we're trying to really rebuild and transform systems is having to confront ourselves with the trauma that in the systems that we've led at times have perpetuated, having to facilitate a space where families are being confronted with the trauma that they're navigating through every day. Talk to us a little bit about adverse childhood experiences and how ACEs play into the framework for the work that you're doing now, and how we might continue to think about leveraging the ACEs framework and doing our work every day.
Yeah, I think most of us are very familiar with ACEs, so adverse childhood experiences, or kind of this broadened term of toxic stresses. And I just think of it of bad things, like bad things that happen to kiddos and families when they're young, especially in that really critical developmentally vulnerable window of early childhood. And we know that when bad things happen in that window, be it exposure to abuse or neglect or incarceration or environmental issues or racism, or the list goes on, when they're exposed to the bad things in that critical window of early childhood, it's scarring. It stays with you. It is a trauma that can potentially stay with you. And in a very kind of graded and predictable way, the more of those bad things that you have in early childhood, the harder it is to be healthy and successful later on in life. But it is not predictive. It doesn't mean that if you have 8, ACEs, you're for sure gonna have this, drop in life expectancy. And that is, I think, where a lot of our work is in making sure that we are able to prevent those ACE exposures and then be able to mitigate them later on in life. Rather than thinking about an individual with ACEs, so much of our work, once again, has been on the population. So we know that the populations that we are working in have a lot of those adversities, right? Those historic, geographic, systemic inequities that once again make it hard for some kids to be healthy and successful. In Flint, one census tract has a 15-year difference life expectancy than another part of Genesee County. But that is not unique to Flint. That is throughout our nation, where that place, that geography, because of that history and the environment and the exposures around that child, really for generations, makes it hard to be healthy and successful. So then I think a lot of my work and a lot of our work together has been, how do we do things at a population level to reverse those statistics, right? And that's exactly what RX Kids is. It is a place-based intervention. It is for everybody it's targeted universal. It's everybody in a certain place to mitigate the effects of those kind of long-standing inequities, adversities that impact our kiddos.